Hello viewers, welcome to Kids Auto and Truck Repair. Today we have a 2014 BMW X1 with a 2.0 liter engine. The customer complaint on this vehicle is there is a burning smell coming inside the vehicle while the vehicle is being driven down the road. The customer says that it smells like oil is burning under the hood. I looked under the hood. I determined that the valve cover gasket is leaking. So we're gonna have to replace the valve cover gasket so we can fix the leak. So there's oil leaking past the valve cover and it's falling on the exhaust manifold. The oil is getting burnt. That's why the customer is smelling a smell of burnt oil inside the vehicle. So to fix this, we're gonna have to replace the valve cover gasket. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how to remove and replace the valve cover gasket on this BMW. So now let's go under the hood so we can look around the valve cover. You will be able to see how wet it is around the valve cover, and after that we're gonna remove the valve cover. So now let's do that. We are here under the hood, so let's look around the valve cover and see if we're gonna find the oil leak. I might have to remove the engine cover so we can see properly. If you look down here, do you see the oil right there on the exhaust manifold? So this is oil. All right, so now I'm gonna remove the cabin air filter housing first. We have one bolt over here. And these bolts are 8mm bolts. Good. So now we're gonna lift the cabin air filter. So here is our cabin air filter. We're gonna get it out of the way. So now I'm gonna remove these plastic covers. Look at all these leaves that we have here. We have a bunch of leaves here. So now we're gonna lift this cover. This cover has one bolt, one 18mm bolt on each side. So once you get those two bolts out, this cover is gonna come out. So we're just gonna lift it like this. So we're gonna get this out of the way. All right, so now we're talking. Now we're making progress. So this engine cover should now come out. So there's a vacuum line over here that I had to unplug. Very nice. Very, very nice. So removing this valve cover should not be too hateful. So now I'm gonna remove these crosses over here. There's this one. Actually, that one we don't have to remove. We're just gonna remove this one. And then I'm gonna disconnect this wire that goes across the valve cover. We have removed the engine cover. This is what we have after removing the engine cover. I'm gonna remove this cross bar over here. We're gonna undo this bolt, this star bolt. There's another bolt over here. We're gonna remove this cover. There's a bolt in there. There's a bolt in here that we're gonna have to undo. And then I'm going to disconnect this wiring harness I might have to disconnect it at the ECM. I mean the DME, that's how BMW calls it. We might have to disconnect this wiring harness at the DME, or we can just disconnect it here at the fuse box. And after that, we're going to disconnect the ignition coils and then this connector here. Okay. And then this little regulator, and then the high pressure fuel pump, and so on. I'm gonna get this wiring harness out of the way, and then we're gonna continue. Now this bolt we're not gonna remove completely. We're just gonna loosen it. And then we're gonna slide this bar out, just like that. So it looks like it's not gonna be easy to disconnect this wiring harness from the fuse box side. So I'm gonna have to disconnect these from the DME side. I'm gonna go in the trunk and disconnect the battery. I have disconnected the battery inside the vehicle. So now I'm gonna disconnect this electrical connector. It looks like this electrical connector is the only one that we're going to disconnect. This one is gonna stay in place. All right, so now we're gonna start disconnecting these electrical connectors. I'm going to undo the fuel rail first. Now, there is no specific way of removing this. So, I mean, there is no specific order to remove these components. So I might have to remove this plastic cover here. Now I'm gonna remove the second one. So now this plastic cover should be able to come out. So I'm gonna have to remove this bar over here too. So now I'm gonna undo this fuel line, this fuel supply line to the fuel rail. You have to be careful and make sure you're wearing safety glasses when you undo this line. So now we're gonna disconnect the fuel supply line to the high pressure fuel pump. So now I'm gonna remove our fuel rail. I'm gonna disconnect the fuel supply lines to the injectors. So now we're gonna undo these bolts here. All right, so we got our fuel rail undone. So I'm gonna get it out of the way. So we got our fuel rail out of the way. So now we're gonna disconnect our ignition coils. And then we're gonna remove the coil. We're just gonna pull these out. Okay, the coil tube looks dry, so that's good. So basically what I'm doing right now is I'm making sure that all our ignition coils are disconnected. Okay. So now the next step is going to be disconnecting our injectors. Okay, so we're getting the injectors disconnected. Again, like I said, guys, I am undoing everything that's in the way. Perfect. Okie dokie. Okay, so we got our wiring pushed to the side. Okay, very good. So now I'm getting this wiring harness out of the way. All right, so we got this plastic cover removed. So we're just gonna lift this wiring harness up like this. So we're just gonna push everything out of the way back there. Okay, so we got everything pushed out of the way. As you can see, our valve cover is now free over here. Our valve cover should be able to come out. We're gonna remove the high pressure fuel pump. The exhaust manifold is really covered with oil. This is crazy. Crazy. All right, guys, so we're making progress. So now let's remove our high pressure fuel pump. Man, it's so hot today. It's very hot in the shop. So here comes our high pressure fuel pump. I'm gonna get it out of the way. So we got the fuel pump out of the way. I'm gonna put this piece of sharp rag here. And then we're gonna remove these bolts here. So slowly we're going. We're making progress. Slowly and surely. All right. So now we're gonna start undoing all the bolts for the valve cover, all the bolts around the valve cover, and then the valve cover is gonna come out. All right, so I got all the bolts for the valve cover undone. So now I'm gonna use this flat screwdriver. I'm gonna get at the angle and I'm gonna start prying the valve cover up gently. We have removed the vacuum pump, so now our valve cover should be able to come out. We're gonna lift it up straight like that. I'm gonna push this fuel line out of the way. So here comes our valve cover. We got the valve cover removed. So now let's take it to the bench. All right, so we have taken our valve cover to the bench. Here's what we have. I am going to clean off the valve cover gasket surface off camera. I'm gonna clean this off very well, and then I will bring you guys back up so we can prep our valve cover. After we get the valve cover prepped, we're gonna put everything back together. Okay, so I'm gonna clean these surfaces off camera and then I will bring you guys back up. We have removed the vacuum pump, so now we're gonna remove our valve cover. So the valve cover should be able to come out now. We're gonna gently work our way out. We're gonna work our valve cover out just like that. So here comes the valve cover. We're gonna take it to the bench. So let's get our valve cover out of the way. So the gasket is very flat over here. So this is where we had a leak. We got the valve cover removed. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to clean the valve cover surface off camera. I'm gonna clean the valve cover gasket mating surface off camera. I'm gonna clean the valve cover off camera, and then I will bring you guys back up so we can install our new gasket on the valve cover. And after that, we're gonna install our valve cover back on the vehicle. We are here at the bench. I cleaned our valve cover off camera. I cleaned it as much as I could. So now we're going to replace our valve cover gasket. I apologize for the noise in the background. So here's our valve cover gasket set. Here is the part number from BMW. Okay, so now let's get the old valve cover gasket removed from the cover. So we're gonna remove our old gasket. So here comes the old valve cover gasket. We're gonna get it out of the way.